Today we're tackling a rather complex Titanfall topic. When I say complex, I mean cheesecake levels of complexity. For those of you who don't know, baking a cheesecake from scratch is no easy feat. It's a long and slightly arduous process that requires a lot of steps, patience, and often a lot of precision to get a great end result, a proper cheesecake that isn't gritty, that has a good, palatable texture, and that doesn't fall apart before you get a chance to even cool it in the fridge. It is no easy feat, and there are many things that can go wrong along the road of baking your own cheesecake. The same can be said when we talk about the future of Titanfall, and more specifically, how the community would like to see the game play out in terms of public play and competitive or ranked play. This is something that I've talked about in the past. I know Derek just recently made a video talking a little bit about competitive play, and it's something I've been wanting to talk about for the last few months now. It also falls in line really well with the discussion that I wanted to have in regard to Titanfall's PvP sandbox, the just for fun, the quick play side of Titanfall. So I figured we'd mesh them together like the cheese and the cake and the cheesecake and create one complex but all-encompassing discussion. Let's, just for a second, think about the groups of individuals that might play Titanfall and the type of experience they might seek out when they think about the future of the franchise with Titanfall 3. We could boil it down, as I've done in the past, to two individual groups. Those who just want to pick up and play the game in quick play, who just want to enjoy the fun factor of the experience, who really appreciate Respawn's lack of die-hard balance, if you will, right? Respawn gives us a lot of interesting weapons that maybe don't really have a concrete use alongside of the more meta weapons, but they're a lot of fun. The Kraber, the L-Star, the EPG, the softball, they're ridiculous, they're absurd, and they definitely cater to that concept of a really good PvP sandbox in which you can really play how you want to play and create your own experience. It is, for me at least, one of the many things that has made Titanfall 2's PvP so replayable. It's the reason I'm still enjoying it, where I burnt out on Titanfall 1's PvP a lot quicker. It had some of those elements, but I think they just hold up better in Titanfall 2, and they really do create an experience in which I can play all die-hard, get in, and try and do my best in CTF, or I can just hop into attrition and just have a good time trying to stick people across the map with the softball. It is a powerful part of Titanfall's quick play experience. The other community that we can look at is the community that is interested in competitive or ranked play. But I think we are actually doing a disservice to the discussion if we only look at them as one group. In reality, they are also two separate groups. So we now have three groups: the quick play just for fun group, the group that wants some sort of a ranked match-made playlist in which they can potentially chase rank or climb the leaderboards amongst the many other people active in the Titanfall community, and the die-hard competitive community that is probably looking more to build their own tournaments, to create their own custom game modes within the game modes that work really well in extreme esports competitive play, again in tournaments that they're holding or in tournaments that websites like Game Battles and Battlefy might be holding, if you will. All three of these groups have different needs and wants to allow them to enjoy the Titanfall experience over an extended time. Now, it's no easy feat to appeal to all three of these groups, and if we really look deep, the reality is that two of these groups make up an extremely small portion of the community. It's a difficult discussion to have because I want there to be ranked play. I want there to be that option for individuals who want to take the game a little bit more seriously, and I absolutely want those private matchmaking options to be as fleshed out as they possibly can, because even though I believe that is a very small portion of the community, which, I mean, it just is, that's the case, the majority of people who play a game, if it becomes extremely successful, are going to gravitate towards quick play more often than not. In the case of Overwatch, I do believe that game has managed to strike an interesting balance across quick play and ranked, where people will hop into ranked just to kind of get their placement, see how they do for the season, and then bail out. But again, the people who really dedicatedly play ranked, they're a very small portion of the community, just like the people who actually play professional Overwatch are a very small portion of the community. So in one way, I completely understand Respawn's neglect when it comes to competitive and ranked in Titanfall 2. Yeah, I mean, they've done votes. They've looked at the community's response before. Other creators within the Titanfall community have done votes, and the numbers for those who actually seek hardcore competitive experiences is actually really, really small. Again, that being said, I think having the option there is a healthy thing. It gives those people a place where they can function and exist, where they feel like they're being listened to, where they feel like they're being given the game that they're most interested in playing. Not everyone wants to just grapple slingshot across the map with the Kraber and the Mastiff and just have a good old time. Some people want that more die-hard, sterile competitive experience because it's just what they enjoy more. And if it's at all possible, of course, having the option to do either is great. Now, you do run the risk long term, if the game doesn't really take off and have a large community, of splitting the community to some extent, having a small group of individuals playing quick play and an even smaller group playing ranked, to the point where ranked is practically useless. But you could also argue at that point, well, the game's probably not doing that well regardless, so it's not like it hurts anyone having that last chunk of the community segmented across two groups. Again, it's not an easy discussion. It's a very complex discussion, and I also know that another side of the coin is people believing that having ranked play, having competitive options, will make the game's player base larger. I'm going to be honest, I've never believed that to be the actual correlation between the success and non-success of a multiplayer focused experience. I just don't think it's true. There's no doubt that you could in the long term grow a game and bring it to a larger stage if it ends up being successful in the realm of esports, but to get there, you typically have to have a really big audience to start. I mean, Overwatch didn't launch and become successful because it was an esport. The esports thing came well after. Hell, the ranked thing came well after Overwatch had already taken off. To boil the success of any game, single player, multiplayer, or otherwise, down to one specific thing, one specific design decision, I don't think that's something we can often do accurately. I think more often than not, there is a massive number of influences, outcomes, and just things that decide whether or not a game is successful. It can be trends, it can be the theme that the game carries, it can be the difficulty, the skill gap, the learning curve. So again, to pin it all on one thing, I don't think is accurate. And I come across as an individual who, at the end of the day, tends to believe that no, having competitive or ranked at launch isn't necessarily going to make your game do that much better because that portion of the community is relatively small. Again, I'm not saying that it's not something I want to see Respawn cater to in the future, but I think one of the areas, coming back to what we talked about earlier, in which Titanfall 2 found great success, is in that it's a game that does just focus on letting people play the way they want to play and letting them have a good time. That's not to say that I'm against game balance. Don't take that particular statement and think to yourself, oh, Tony doesn't care if weapons are overpowered or broken. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. But I think there is a very fine line to walk between something that is overpowered that actually is a detriment to the overall experience and something that is kind of just fun and goofy and maybe a little bit more effective than it should be in a specific situation. I think Grapple is an outstanding example of that. Yes, Grapple ruins gameplay focused modes like CTF. It is a very and often all too powerful tool for those situations. But in my mind, when we talk CTF or objective based modes, they typically don't work well in a quick play environment. I mean, you have to really design a game around just those modes and give no options whatsoever for team deathmatch or free-for-all or respawn-based modes to get your community to be able to focus around that. I mean, that's something that Overwatch has managed to pull off relatively well, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people who still don't know how to stand on the payload. It's not easy when you build a game around objective-based modes, which is why when I look at a game like Titanfall and Call of Duty, more laid back, more pick-up-and-play experiences that don't ban players for quitting their matches, that don't take those things ultra seriously, I tend to look at the quick play community as the people who are just going to end up piling their way into attrition and team deathmatch. When you put those modes in a game, the masses flock to those modes because they require little to no coordination with the other members of a team. That's why I like to transition CTF objective-based modes over into the ranked play competitive side of things. And this is, I guess, one area in which we can come back to talk about the potential strengths of ranked play in terms of a matchmaking experience, is that you can have your quick play style modes like attrition, modes that don't focus on heavy team cooperation. You can stick those in the quick play playlist. And then when people play ranked, they get those objective modes. They get the hard point. They get CTF, they get LTS. They get the stuff that is more aimed towards actual team play and communication. So it's a messy discussion. I mean, to be honest, it's just one I've been thinking about for months, and there's no final answer there. But I do think, I guess, to close things out here, whatever happens in terms of Respawn's decisions for Titanfall 3 to give ranked play, to do a ranked chip, to do a leaderboard, these are definitely compromises I'd like to see them make as a studio that at this point seems very keen on not worrying about those things. Because again, where's the majority of their community with Titanfall 2, right? They're looking at the numbers, they're making logical decisions, but I don't think it hurts to have leaderboards, to have something like the rank chip, to give people just something a little bit to chase after. Those people who are even hanging out, just playing, those more laid back modes, they just want something to run after sometimes. I understand what that does for progression and longevity. I think that can be a powerful tool. But I think most importantly for me is for them to not forget the design ideologies they did have with Titanfall 2 when it comes to that fun PvP sandbox. To touch on that one more time, it's the weird and out there weapons that you don't get in Call of Duty, that you don't get in Rainbow Six Siege, that make Titanfall 2 so much fun to play. Having a grenade launcher archetype that actually has 3 different separate grenade launcher archetypes within the grenade launcher archetype. The EPG, the Cold War, the softball, those 3 alone, they're completely different from one another. You look at the way the L-Star functions, having the Mastiff and having the EVA, they're 2 different shotgun platforms. The plethora of sniper rifles, all functioning differently. The Stand-em DMR, the Double Take, which fires 2, sometimes 3 bullets in certain cases, and the Kraber with that ridiculous slow-firing one-shot anywhere kill. They've done an amazing job at making fun, unique weapons that I think make Titanfall 2's quick play environment, again, one of the best PvP sandboxes ever made. The only thing I can compare it to is me being able to boot up like Black Ops 4 in the beta recently, and to just run with fun underpowered weapons, to run around with a revolver only, with a shotgun only. But those weapons, while they are underpowered and difficult to use, like the softball or the Kraber in Titanfall 2, they're not nearly as unique or as exciting as the weapons in Titanfall 2 are. So I have no clear answer. If you were coming to this video thinking, oh, Tony has a really defined opinion on what should and shouldn't happen, there's just too many different obstacles, variables, reasons for Respawn to not and to do things when it comes to quick play, ranked, etc., etc. We can look at what I believe are defining factors if you want to spawn the discussion further from that, like the majority of people don't play ranked modes. The majority of people aren't interested in hardcore competitive tournament experiences. Is it healthy to have that stuff? I think yes, but is that a driving force that is going to make the game have hundreds of thousands of players? Can a game like Titanfall 2 in the current landscape of gaming even ever be that successful with its movement tech and with the experience it offers? Perhaps not. It's just not what people are looking for. I mean, Quake Champions isn't suddenly going to get 400,000 players. Hell, it's probably never going to get close to the realm of Rainbow Six Siege. It's just not in the spotlight right now. And maybe that's the case with Titanfall 2, but maybe that won't be the case with Titanfall 3. The reality is the discussion isn't as easy as do this and the game will explode. Do that and the game will explode. There's way more factors than you can ever logically look at in one discussion. So keep that in mind. And of course, feel free to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear how important the 3 things we talked about today are to you. How important is a fun public play experience that isn't obsessed over game balance, that is okay with having fun and unique weapons and unique tools like the grapple, How important is it to you to have some sort of a match-made rank mode where maybe things are a little bit more curated and you can earn rank and climb leaderboards and get maybe use some unique rewards for participating in ranked seasons? And how important are private match tools to you? Not just so you can screw around with your friends and make fun game modes, which is also something that I think does actually drive the longevity of the game, but for you to actually create your own competitive restricted modes with locked out weapons and disabled abilities, you know, to create a real genuine esports vibe, if you will, to run your own private tourneys. How important are each of those three things to you? Let me know down in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
You have been brought here for a purpose. The most important